I had a fraction of a second to make my decision. My decision was, render this idiot unconscious. And that's exactly what I did. And I'll do it again.
Yes, one of Britain's most successful fighters. Best believe he had the speed, he had the Haymaker, and he had a bad toe.
That's what I'm chatting about, baby.
Yes, from Cruiserweight champion to heavyweight champion to I'm a celebrity to a pasting from Tony Bellew.
Tony Bellew, you're a bell end.
And of course he is without question one of the greatest self-promoters in the history of the sport.
The same way I said before the Aldi Harrison fight, the same way I said before the Chisora fight, I end the fight when I want to end the fight.
Well, we'll see.
And I know, I'll end the fight when I want to. If I want to punish you for 3 or 4 rounds, I'll do that. If I want to take you out in 30 seconds, I'll do that. It's completely and utterly up to me. You're just in there, you've got no say.
In fact, to be honest, there's only one man in boxing who's a better self-promoter than David Haye, and it is obviously John Fury.
I will fight David Haye, and tell him from me, I will fight him 7 days a week and 3 times on Sunday.
I'm going to be a promoter now. You tell him.
Let's not play games here. I'll fight you. Yeah. Me, John Fury, 56-year-old. I've got some good steam in my body left yet. Give me 5 weeks. No big long camps, me and you'll get at it.
Yes, big up Big John. Dave didn't want that smoke. In fact, he didn't want smoke with any of the Furies, it would turn out. But before we get to that, let's rewind way back before the Bellew fights. Way back before he was in a double relationship with a model and that sort from the Saturdays. Fucking cracked it, didn't he? Anyway, before all that, yes, the Haymaker was born into a boxing-loving family. He'd get into the odd scrap at school and on the streets, but after putting a beat down on the unlucky lad in front of him on many occasions, David was rather unfulfilled that very few people were seeing how good he was at fighting. So it was these altercations that would end up being one of the main reasons that boxing became very appealing, the prospect of showing his talent to a wide audience. Now at 10 years old, he rocked up to Fitzroy Lodge Amateur Boxing Club, and his talent was seen and nurtured straight away by Mick Carney, who described him as basically a bit of a fucking nightmare, to be honest. Mick said he was lazy when it come to training, but best believe he was formidable in the ring, possessing the sort of power a young boy should not be capable of. On top of that, he said he was always a scallywag. He turned up to the gym most days with a new bike, obviously kept on nicking them from the other lads on the manor. I'll be having that, boss, you can fuck right off. But ultimately, his talent prevailed and he garnered invaluable experience on the amateur circuit. Then at 16 years old, he would meet a man who would take him on to the next level, Mr. Adam Booth. Now a teenage David Haye was dangerous, he was skillful and he was confident. So confident in fact that he thought he could party all night, he thought he could mess about with the birds rolling at 4 AM and keep on winning. However, he'd soon learn that method was not sustainable when he got a rude awakening from another young amateur called Jim Twite.
What?
So it would turn out to be a blessing in disguise, forcing the young Haye to take the sport more seriously, and he did exactly that. He made great strides in their final years, picking up silver in the World Amateur Championships and narrowly missing out on the Sydney Olympics in 2000. Then, finally, in 2002, at just 22 years old, he finished off his amateur career with a record of 83 for 13, and it was time to make the jump into the pro game. So at the prestigious York Hall on a Frank/Kelly Maloney card, a young and eager Haye made his debut against Tony Bellew, who after taking a battering for 2 rounds looked at his trainer and went, "Fuck that, that's me done, bruv." Yes, the immense power of the Haymaker was way too much to deal with, and it would be way too much to deal with for every single one of his first 10 opponents, who he knocks out all within the first 4 rounds. But it weren't all smooth sailing, because he got an absolute wallop in the second round in a fight against Lalenga Mac, and it's fair to say he was all over the shop.
He's wobbling. Is this a sensation in the making? David Haye is up. He says that a mock has threatened to dethrone the golden boy of British boxing, and Haye has to hold on. And Haye staggered.
Yes, it was one of them cracking temple shots reminiscent of AJ against Ruiz and Parker against Bacoli, but fair play, David, even with his senses scrambled, he showed some serious bollocks to get the victory in the 4th round.
Look at the determination on his face. He wants this knockout, he wants this victory. David Haye's in trouble. Parker's catching up. The uppercut from David Haye. That's the one that he can't show us with. Let's get rid of the final of Belfast of 2001. Parker's done for the second time and he's stopped it.
So then, much like the Jim Twite knockout, David just had a tendency to Fucking hell, look at that haircut. It's like Hampton Court fucking Maze. Anyway, yes, he had a tendency to get hit. I mean, it was predominantly poor defence, but maybe more so. It was just the overconfident, brash style he had and the assumption that he was going to spark out everyone in front of him in double quick fashion. Probably thought he didn't need defence, really. Now, as mentioned, normal service would resume and he did obliterate everyone in the following 6 fights, but then more problems would arise in his 11th fight against the well-seasoned Carl Thompson. Yes, old Carlos had one foot out the door at this point. This was kind of expected to be a retirement fight for the legend. However, that warm summer night in London in 2004, the script would be ripped up.
Shot. And he waited for the single shot, but he waited too long and got picked up with a jab and the right hand. Great shot round the corner. That's a knockdown. That's a genuine knockdown. As Carl Thompson, who's now got a 10-8 round in his favour, going to finish this and has the much vaunted great hope of British Cruiserweight and works. Well, this is incredible from Carl Thompson, it really is. Yet again, he's proved himself. Hayes gone! Oh, he's all over the place. The towel's come in from the Haye corner. The towel has come in, and it's all over. David Haye's career is in tatters.
So then, was it too early? Was it a managerial mistake? Well, the man himself to this day doesn't think so.
It was the perfect matchmaking for me. I knew, only after I got beat, I knew I had all these wristbands for the after party all set up, ready to go. The focus wasn't on holding the skill set and technique together and the strategy together. Right. It was just, okay, I'm going to beat this old guy, and then we're looking at world title fights. I needed a full, humbling defeat where the referee gave me every chance to do it, and what I trained to do versus what I did in the ring. Two completely different things.
There we are, so yet another humbling experience, another reality check that will turn out to be a blessing in disguise. And yes, the Haymaker then returned from this fight with an absolute bang. 3 knockouts ensued, all within a couple of rounds, and then he picked up his first major belt, the European title, in a punch-perfect performance.
4 rounds, the only time he's been the 5th. He was knocked out, but a right hand floors Alexander Gurov inside the opening 40 seconds, and I don't know whether he's going to make it. There's the power of David Haye.
Now the levels were getting higher, but the Haymaker was adapting well. Incredibly, to this point, he'd only really fought in leisure centres, and even his final defence of the European title against Fragamini was at the York Hall. Bloody hell, boxing was fucked back then, wasn't it, at the start of the millennium? Imagine a young David Haye nowadays with all the social media and all that. Actually, that was a good fight, to be fair. Haye finished him off with a punch after he'd gone down. The referee was about an inch away, but he didn't give a fuck. He said, no problem, I didn't see nothing wrong with that. Then after this, David had his first dabble into the heavyweight scene, coming in at 217 pounds against Thomas Bonin. And yes, finally, he was now making some noise, old David, selling out Wembley Arena for this fight. And after an absolute demolition, it was back to Cruiserweight to go for world honours against the dangerous Mormek over in France.
You watch for it, sooner or later, this Mormek has got to pick this up. Oh, and he hits him with a good shot, and he hit him with the right hand, and he's down. And 8, and he jumps right back up. He trunks for the Union Jack, does the right hand again. Right hand's in. Vicious body shots. Well, he's landed that right hand power shot to the body throughout. Now Mormek's starting to get hit, and down he goes. And 5, and 6, it looks like he'd be ending it up. And 7, and 8, barely up as Jean-Marc Mormek. It's all over. David Haye knocked out Jean-Marc Mormek.
So it don't get mentioned enough, he didn't half have some bottle, old David. Credit where credit is due. He weren't just a puncher, he was all heart and game as a badger. This was around the time he was looking absolutely unstoppable. Pretty much the best cruiserweight in the world, and this was cemented even more with a crushing of the Welsh legend Enzo Macronelli. A fight billed as a 50-50 tear-up prior to the first bell, and by the way, Haye was all respectful in this build-up. The mouthpiece weren't quite born yet, but either way, David showed Enzo the levels to become unified cruiserweight champion.
Fight is starting to warm up.
Yes, it was one of the purest punches of David's career, and just look at Calzaghe's face. He is fucking fuming, isn't he? He's going, fucking hell, Taffy, you let the sight down there, isn't it? And then, to the surprise of trainer Adam, both Haye then stated he was about to rock up and cause some havoc in the heavyweight division.
There's no more challenges left for me at Cruiserweight. Come on, the big boys, bring on Klitschko, bring on Samuel Peters, whoever's out there. They can't, I don't think you understand how hard I hit.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Let me introduce you to the absolutely brilliant Holy. Yes, Holy is the healthier, tastier, more sustainable and more convenient alternative to the usual run-of-the-mill energy drinks. So with no sugar, no artificial flavours and 100% natural fruit flavours, Holy is an epic choice to give you that energy kick you need and without that major crash incoming afterwards. Now, Holy got in touch with me just before Christmas and sent me their hydration, iced tea and energy packs to try, and I tell you what, these things are absolutely blinding. I'm not a fan of the popular energy drinks available because the caffeine makes me high as a kite and shaking like a friggin' leaf, but Holy doesn't do that. They use vitamins and special new caffeine which spreads slower in the body, still producing plenty of energy, but without giving me that restlessness and of course without giving me the crash. Oh yes, why not get involved and boost your energy with the Starter Set Deluxe? The link is in the comments along with my code for a cheeky discount. It's Boxing 5 for £5 off the first order and Boxing for 10% off every order after that. Enjoy, chaps. Now back to the vid. So it was time to join the big boys and get amongst the big money. Oh yes, I mean we all know David loves a pound note, bruv. The first thing he bought was a bigger pair of them famous shorts. I mean, size of them, he must have bought them in the same place price he bought his fucking suit. Anyway, first up it was Monty Barrett, and I'll tell you what, someone must have slipped him a bit of fucking Charlie before his ring walk. Have a look. And he's a bit fucking keen, isn't he? And yes, Haye disposed of him in 5 rounds to announce his arrival. Then it was off to Germany to fight old Bigfoot, weren't it? Bloody hell, yes, the 7'2" monster, 7 stone heavier than David, was feared and revered. He was fresh off a win against the washed up Holyfield, but the Bermondsey boy was there to rip that world title away from him. And this is when the showman, the trash talker, the mega mouthpiece was born. I mean, he was always well spoken, old David, however now he'd learnt that talk is cheap in the boxing game, but trash talk is actually very expensive.
Ugly as hell, is probably one of the ugliest human beings. He is the ugliest human being I've ever seen in the flesh.
And of course, him and Adam Booth produced a masterclass game plan to derail the giant.
But the italics are for so far.
Another round where he has to work the whole 3 minutes under pressure.
Against him. Oh, he's got it going with a left hook. What a finish here. Haye gets
David now wishing he had gone for it earlier and tested this man.
London, England, and no.
David Haye is the WBA heavyweight champion of the world.
So he was now the first British heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis, and his profile went through the roof. All of a sudden he was a major celebrity and he fucking loved it, didn't he? Look at him bowling about with Mickey Rourke, model shoots with Katie Price, nights out with that Joe Fournier bloke, the billionaire who's always fucking skinned. You'd have to have a brain made of fucking yoghurt to believe he's a billionaire. Anyway, then he went on to defeat the very tough John Ruiz at the MEN Arena, and oh yes, we all know what came next.
You're saying it's an easy fight, David. I mean, is it a lose-lose situation for you then?
No, it's not. It's going to be a big win for me. Watching him stretched out there for a final time, exactly what I want to do, exactly what I need to see. And the way I'm going to do it as well, I'm only going to...
David, I'm going to
embarrass you.
Of your life.
I'm going to embarrass you.
Okay, you're going to
fight
be the fight of your life.
My life. You're going to embarrass.
You better get your mind thinking right.
Break you down and embarrass you.
That's right. It's called the sweet science, baby.
Sweet science.
It's called the sweet science.
So incidentally, this was the birth of old Edward Hernio into the boxing world, weren't it? He bowled up on Sky Sports. Yeah, don't you worry, Audley's got his number. I know what I'm talking about. Fucking hell. 15 years later, he's still talking bollocks. And yes, it was actually so one-sided, that fight, that the board had to investigate Audley Harrison afterwards, holding back his purse until he explained why he was in fact so shit that night. I mean, he landed one bloody punch in the 8 minutes that he was in the ring. Smash it. On top of this, David told his family and friends to bet a substantial amount of money on the 3rd round. Yeah, I mean, you bet your life somehow he put a shitload on that round himself. Obviously completely illegal, but there we are. This is David Haye. He does what he wants, doesn't he? However, the big problem was this fight was in no way any sort of preparation for his next bout, the most important of his career, against the long-standing king of the division. And as much as David tried to get under his skin, trying all sorts of mental warfare on Dr. Steelhammer, it just didn't work. and on the night, everything went wrong.
I couldn't push off my right foot. As you can see, I broke my toe, so I was unable to push off with my right foot. I pumped it full of and you can actually look at my toe and see my toe here. It's smashed. It's broke there. It's one of those things that injuries happen.
Well, that's going to be perceived, as you know, David, as an alibi.
So he obviously got a bit of stick for the old toe excuse. Unfortunately, it's just a written rule in boxing, never make an excuse. Even if your fucking head fell off in the first round, don't mention it, otherwise you get backlash. I know it's harsh, but it's the way it is. Funnily enough, Haye would learn his lesson when he came to fighting Bellew later on down the line, but having said all that, it turns out the issue with his toe was in fact true.
Well, I know he was injured, like his toe had literally been snapped in two, so he had injections in it
prior to the fight
in the change room beforehand. So he starts warming up, but it wasn't enough, so he could still feel the toe. They thought we were doing gamesmanship, delaying the ring walk. We weren't. It's because he had to take the boot off and have it re-injected again.
Ultimately, this was a bitter pill to swallow for old Haye. All the work he'd done to get to this point was now overshadowed with the poor performance, and he was ridiculed relentlessly with jibes about his toe. Fair play, he did actually try to get a rematch, but Vladimir said no, fuck that. So he then tried to get revenge on his brother Vitaly, and after a string of negotiations, everything was agreed, all lined up should Vitaly come through his next fight against the up-and-coming and relatively unknown Derek Chisora. So with David doing commentary for the fight and watching Vitaly cruise to victory, David then went into the media pit to make some noise for the fight. However, Delboy happened to make a bit more noise, and let's just say there was an altercation.
Hey David, how's your toe? 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 David, you want to tell me that in my face? You want to tell me my face? You want to tell me my face? Alright, tell me my face then. I'm coming there and tell me my face.
So I can't play it all because YouTube gets a bit moody about it, but needless to say, the shit hit the fan and a fucking tripod hit Adam both. What a liberty. Anyway, David slipped off double lively before the feds came. Delboy got collared and banned by the WBC, and the whole debacle made headline news. But what does headline news mean? It means hype, baby. Yes, and there was no other fight the public wanted than this monster brick grudge match. Love it. Obviously, the British fannies of control didn't want no part of it, so Frank went no problem. Fuck you, Luxembourg, get involved, son. And with over 30,000 fans at Upton Park in the pissing down rain, Haye would once again show all he needed was that devastating power.
Fight is that he can't afford to let Haye get into a rhythm and stack up rounds early on. Yeah, he was the ex-knockout artist in the sense that Haye is, but he does have a cast iron chin. Oh, big left hand and right! Tremendous shots from Haye! Left hook, right hand, and Chisora down in the pit. Wonderful left hook that was. He's got one of the best chins in the business, but he couldn't stand up. And he's gone again! I don't think he's going to get up this time! The counts at 6, at 7, at 8, he has! He's waiting off!
And yes, there we are. So interestingly, prior to the Klitschko fight, Haye had actually planned to retire. He thought the fight wouldn't materialise for a start, but mainly he was simply content with all he'd done in the sport and wanted to finish on a high. But roll on Chisora and he found a bit of motivation again with plans to fight Manuel Charr after this victory. Luckily, for Manuel Charr at least, that fight didn't happen, and instead he negotiated with the Gypsy King for another all-English dust-up.
I've brung it out the fire every single time I've had to do. David Haye, well, what has he done? What's he famous for? Beating a giant who couldn't move out of his own way. Listen, everyone David Haye's fought, including Klitschko, I would smash to bits. I'm glad this little to sign the contract, because there was a lot of messing around, you know. He is a big tart, David Haye. Why don't you think about what you are saying before you say it, before you make yourself look stupid?
Me look stupid, yeah?
Yes, with that hairstyle. Look at the state of it.
It's actually so sad that this fight never happened. What a bloody shame. It would have been a blinder. Anyway, injuries have been a common thing throughout David's career, and he took this as just another way of his body saying enough is enough. So finally, he walked away. He walked away and he walked straight into the bloody jungle, didn't he? Yes, there he was with a pussycat doll and that bird from EastEnders doing bush tucker trials, eating kangaroos' bollocks. Bloody hell, what a transition, eh? But of course, he couldn't stay away for too long. Either that or he went skin.
I'm back.
And 3 years, 6 months after the Chisora fight, there he was back in the ring once again with Mark Demori. Fucking hell, that didn't last too long. Then it was Arnold Gugagach. Brilliant. But amongst all this, one man was calling his name louder than anyone's ever called it before. Enter Tony Bellew.
To you, what's your message to Tony Bellew down that camera?
Tony Bellew, you're a bell end.
I could go clubbing every single night and I'll still knock you out. It's easy.
Just tell me you've got a hairband on. For God's sake, man, you've got a hairband on. I'm standing right here. Hey.
You're getting knocked out.
You're going to miss. You're going to miss. You're going to miss.
All of these fucking retards know as well.
Now there was something in the air during this build-up, it was just electric. I remember watching it thinking, fair play Tony, you've been just as entertaining as David, but let's be honest, you're about to get absolutely walloped in this one. However, nobody could have predicted what would happen, and the stars aligned for the legendary Scouser that magical night at the O2.
Tony Bellew just needs to, looks like they're going to go for it early on straight away. Bellew with the left hand as Haye comes in. It's a matter of time before they open up again. Here we go. You know, winning the world over at Thomas. He connects there and tries to back Bellew up in his own corner. Runs against Isaac Chilemba. Loading up there heavily. David Haye just slips there. David Haye suddenly, but down he goes. Bellew. A countering shot. No, headshot. Something's gone with David Haye. He's not in trouble on his knees. His knees in serious trouble. Something's gone with his knee. There's a big problem for David Haye. He can hardly walk, and he's got to go for the knockout. Can Tony Bellew sense it? Has both swing away. Halfway through the legs gone here. David Haye really. There's no power in them punches. This is where Tony needs it. Oh, Bellew's got it. Shots here. And down goes Haye. And physically, can he even get back through the ropes? The count is at 9. And the towel's gone in.
So then two things here. Firstly, David was of course double unlucky to get injured like that. But secondly, even so, prior to the injury, you could see that he was just a shell of himself, to be honest. He was swinging and missing, lacking speed and timing. There was no resemblance to the unstoppable force around 7 or 8 years prior. And who knows, without the injury, he may well have lost the fight anyway. Now, as mentioned earlier, good on him. There was no excuses this time, even though we all saw it plain as day. Instead, though, there was a severe desperation to exact his revenge, and in no time at all the rematch was on. Then it was off. Bloody hell. Another injury for Haye with his fucking Poppadom body. But then it was back on again and we were in business. Unfortunately though for the Haymaker, Father Time once again remains undefeated.
Should be brave. I think he's just hold.
And that was that. A bit of a sad ending, but that's boxing for you. That was the career of David Haye. In a nutshell, he's a double legend in the game, the Haymaker. His body let him down in the end, but fair to say when he was tip-top, he was shit hot. And he gave us some blinding memories. Big up the Haymaker.